UConn with some push in the running game for the first time in quite some time last season. Looked to even improve the offensive line a bit more coming into 2016. We talked positional units, and we talked the Huskies with Aman Kidwai from the UConn blog and also Rivals.com. Aman, it's always a good time talking some football. We're going to talk about those guys that don't get a whole lot of credit. So for those people watching this video, we're going to make them sit through the offensive line before we start talking wide receivers because everybody wants to hear about them. You actually lost the starter here in Tyler Samra. You had 13 starts last year, 26 total. But other than that, you've got a ton of experience coming back, some guys that have been pretty productive. Actually, 76 starts coming back on this offensive line, and you bring back a medical redshirt from 2015, and also a kid's good enough at this point to be projected as a starter left tackle.
Yeah, offensive line has been a area of concern for UConn for a few years now, and it took a very small step forward last year, I would say. And then this year, I would say the expectation is that it does take a medium-sized or bigger step forward. Certainly, Samra is the only senior missing, or sorry, the only person leaving from that starting offensive line from last year. And I think we'll be able to adequately fill his spot at the right guard. I think it might be Trey Rutherford. It could be Daniel Oak. Not really sure there. It could be Brandon Vetchery, who actually stepped in very admirably at center last year when starter Ryan Crozier went down. This year, we've got Crozier back at center, which will be great. That's obviously a critical position on the offensive line. We'll have our big man from Denmark, Andreas Kanapi, starting at right tackle. And then, you mentioned the younger guy making his way into the starting lineup, it seems. Matthew Pert, redshirt freshman from the Boston area, is currently slotted to be the starting left tackle, someone who we were hearing a lot about last year in practice, was able to unseat the incumbent starter, Richard Levy, who is now moving in to left guard. So it's going to be a really big offensive line, and hopefully with the experience returning, it's something which can set up our very talented running backs for increased success this coming season.
Yeah, they must be really high on Pert for him to step in as the left tackle, considering, as you mentioned, Levy with 25 career starts, most of those at left tackle. Vetchery has 13 starts. Hopkins has 12 starts in his career, so it's a pretty Knapp with 13 starts as well. Pretty experienced offensive line that, again, wasn't dynamic last year, but moved the running game better than it has in quite some time. Cam DeGeorge, a kid out of Massachusetts, could be needed down the line, 2017 and beyond, 64th rated guard in this past recruiting class. All right, we'll talk some wide receivers. It starts with Noel Thomas, 54 catches, 3 touchdowns, 719 yards. How do you like your receiving core at this point?
Yeah, it definitely, you've got Noel Thomas as the lead guy, the clear-cut number one receiver, and he's great. He has a very strong knack for getting open, very good catching radius. It seems like anything that is remotely within his area, he's able to get both hands on and pull it down, which is really great. And, while those numbers from last year may not necessarily jump off the page, when you consider UConn's offense and the way that it's structured, those really are pretty solid numbers, and something he's definitely going to improve on this year. And I think, when it comes to next year, NFL draft time, he's definitely someone who's going to be in that early to mid-round conversation as well. After Thomas, we've got the only other only other upperclassman is really Brian Lamel, a senior from Pennsylvania who has shown flashes in his first couple of years on campus. He missed a good chunk of last season due to an injury, but he is definitely someone who can be an impact player both in the slot as well as the return game. After him, it's pretty wide open. It's a lot of sophomores and redshirt freshmen. I would say that group, it's maybe five receivers deep, but it's headlined by Tyreek Beals, who definitely had an impact last year, as a true freshman, and then Hergy Mayala, who he also missed some time due to an injury, but I think is someone who, if we're talking about that group of the rest of the receivers, those are the two who I would say to look for or to look out for among the receivers.
Beals with 24 receptions last year, 2 touchdowns, and Mayala 7 catches for 80. Okay, Diaco doesn't just play a tight end, Aman. He values the tight end. So while the tight end is disappearing across college football, you not only have a tight end on the field, you usually have 2 at times. You've got different categories of tight ends. You're going to have to sort all that out for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. Bob Diaco and our offensive coordinators definitely value the tight end. You're absolutely right. There's often 2 on the field at once, and that has created a little bit of nuance in how we look at the 2 guys on the field. So the way that the terminology, or that they have termed it, is there's a tight end and then there is a F. The F is kind of your hybrid fullback tight end position. Think Chris Cooley or Jim Kleinsasser for the NFL fans out there. But somebody who can hang out in the backfield, can maybe go in motion out wide, can maybe lock in and also be an inline blocker, someone who's a little bit more versatile, who can play a variety of roles and really keep the defense guessing. It's so that we can, using the same personnel, we can go 3 wide, or we can go double tight, or we can go 2 backs into a power running formation. So definitely a lot of names to bring up here. I would say foremost of which is Tommy Myers. Very talented, very athletic, big, redshirt junior from Connecticut. Somebody who's made some pretty big plays at times last year and has seemed a little underutilized even potentially. Definitely I think would be, you would call him our number 1 tight end. And then after him, I would say Alec Bloom, 6'7", also capable of making big plays. You see him a lot, catching a lot of passes in the seams. Similar boat, I would say. It's maybe a trend with the whole position, is that they seem to be a little underutilized in the passing game. That may be because the offensive line isn't providing enough time for some of those downfield routes to develop. Or it might be, that Sharef's is a little hesitant maybe to throw it right there where the most defenders are. But both Bloom and Myers are players who are capable of having big games and have in the past. Now, going to the F position, we've got a transfer from Northern Iowa, Billy Williams, who was at the postseason awards ceremony last year. He was named Scout Team Player of the Year. Someone who could potentially also made a couple of plays in the spring game, someone who could potentially factor in. And then the other is a 2016 recruit who UConn fans and coaches alike are very excited for, and that's Jay Rose from Southington. He played quarterback in high school, as is common for the best athlete in a town to be playing quarterback. But I think after conversations with the coaches about getting on the field, best position at the next level kind of thing, they were able to convince him to give the F a try. Rose is a big, strong guy. He can run the ball, and someone who is probably one of the highest rated or most recruited players to choose to come to UConn in the past 5-7 years. So should be interesting to see what kind of playing time he can manage in this crowded group. But either way, there's a lot of excitement for his presence in the lineup and for him to be playing his ideal position.
All right. He keeps us updated on UConn football as we get set for 2016, breaking down the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive line. Aman Kidwai from the UConn blog and also rivals.com. Aman, always appreciate the breakdown.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for having me.